Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Billy Watson TV. It gives me great pleasure today to have a first-time guest on. His name is Lance L. Murdoch. Good Murdoch. And yeah, I don't know if he's got any Scottish in him, but we're about to find out. He is the guy behind Rise Above. So welcome to the show, Lance. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Billy. Thank you very much for having me on, mate.
That's cool. I seen you had an event, which we'll get into later, and I says that looks a pretty cool event. I'd like to be part of that, and yep, I've got a spot on it. So much thanks for that. Very excited.
The rest is history, mate. The rest is history.
I've seen you put out a wee thing there. You wanted to get on a podcast and start telling the story, probably to promote this event. So I'm happy to hear the story about Rise Above. But before we start that, let's talk about yourself. Where did you grow up, and what's your kind of background?
Okay, so I grew up on the South Coast in Poole, to a fairly normal family. At school, I always did pretty well at school, but I was always getting pulled aside, and my parents were always getting pulled in because I seem to have a bit of a hunger to entertain ideas and concepts that were sort of out the remit of the other kids.
Right.
And although I scored very well on tests, the teachers were always a bit worried. Like what I would draw lots of really detailed pictures and that, while other kids were drawing stick figures, and they were quite dark and stuff, So I was always a bit of a weird child, but I did quite well at school. Now, and then I at the age of 15, 15 years old, I heard rap music and I heard the Wu-Tang Clan.
All right.
Okay. My mate had the Enter the Wu-Tang CD, a very seminal hip hop CD.
Is that the one that starts off with "Calling my black woman a bitch"? No,
I'm not. No, it's got all the hip hop. The kung fu hip hop samples on it. So like, your Shaolin style can't test me. Like it's got all the kung fu samples on it. The Wu-Tang stuff. So I heard that, and at the age of 15, I decided I wanted to become a rapper. And at the grammar school I was at the time, with all the other lads around me thought that was quite funny, this white boy living in Poole wanting to become a rapper. But I stuck at it, and by the age of 18, I was sort of performing at raves and stuff like that. Now, right up until 2001, when I saw the Twin Towers come down live on TV, I was actually happened to be watching the TV as the second tower come down. My mate pulled me into his house and said, "Look at this. This looks like a movie." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a movie." And then the tower comes down. That was obviously a conscious shock, like it was for a lot of people, right, Billy?
Yeah, it was
a lot of people.
The media made it that way as well.
Yeah, of course. Now that changed things for me. So this sort of hunger I'd had in my mind to entertain these other ideas was sort of given a conscious shock. And I think by, again, for a lot of people, very similar. 2007, I saw that Zeitgeist movie.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that, I was like, whoa, like all these lights started coming on. And then very shortly after that, within about a week, I read my first David Icke book.
Right.
Now, a lot of people have got negative views about David Icke. I don't really care. I happen to think that a lot of the information he put out was very, very useful. Oh, big shout out to all the Rise Above crew in the chat there. I can see them all.
I know there's a lot of strange names. That's David Icke woke me up. Somebody gave me a turning off the tide video when I was 22 and watched that, then watched the news and says, well, some rabbit holes to go down here then,
I think the first one I read was Tales from the Time Loop.
Right, yeah.
And after that, I read about 5 or 6 Icke books. And obviously, he covers everything in those books, literally the whole shebang, the whole rabbit, as we like to call it, at Rise Above. And that was obviously a bit of a mind blower. But a lot of it resonated with me. So over the next few years, I started avidly reverse engineering all of the different subjects and all of the different pieces of this puzzle that I'd read in the David Icke book that just go and just gives you all of it. And obviously online, I was known as a proper conspiracy theorist because I was sharing all the stuff about false flag attacks and things like that. But then around 2000 and let me get this right. In 2015, I started moving into combat sports MCing and presenting fight sports rather than being a drum and bass MC, which was what I was doing up until that point. And I started to get quite successful quite quickly. I got a spot on BT Sport. I was doing international level mixed martial arts, announcing fights. So I was a bit conscious that I had to give the crazy stuff a rest. And my online commentary sort of went towards exposing what I saw as like the precursor for Clown World. Like when they had those crazy left, right, red, blue wars in the street in America. around that time.
Right, with the Trump and all that stuff.
It was kind of before, it was just before Trump. It was when Black Lives Matter first came around, and you would first see the Patriots battering Antifa in the street. It was actually a couple of years before Trump, and then Trump came around. So I was always online trying to sort of like because I had all these people from the music scene on my friends list who were all sort of a bit left, and I had all these new people from the combat sports world who were naturally a bit right.
Right.
And what I tried to do was breach, because I saw what was coming. I sort of saw the culture, what was coming, because I've been studying the social engineers and the Soroses for quite a long time.
Yeah.
You know, actually quite in a perverted way. I'm talking like 2 or 3 hours a day, every single day for like 10 years. And that's no exaggeration. Sometimes it was 4 or 5 hours a day, Bill.
Oh my God.
Right? So when that started happening, I was just like, boom, boom, boom. And I was able to quite easily pick it apart. And I actually brought quite a lot of people that would have been at each other's throats on the internet to a little bit more together, and to realize that there is a psyop going on here. This is look at the colors. Look how archetypal this is. It's like you've got to pick a side. And I said, listen, the best thing to do is the third option, not to pick the side. So that was what I was doing while I was sort of getting into TV and stuff in 2015, 16, 17, in fact, because I couldn't be talking about the occult, the real weird aspects to what was going on, allegedly. I couldn't really talk about it because I didn't want to compromise my career. I was doing a bit of service to self at that point in my life.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that. Then you're strong.
You do. It's about getting the balance, Billy.
Yeah.
Now, we got to about 2018. About 2000, halfway through 2018, and something, I started to have a feeling, and I started to have a very strong feeling that all of the years of research and all of this time I'd spent thinking about this stuff in my head, and even actually rehearsing how I would explain it to people. I'm not joking. Yeah, it might be weird. You imagine you catch me in a room on my own, I'm having a conversation to myself, explaining like one of these weird concepts to someone that doesn't understand. I would actually practice it because something told me that the time would come. And I got a few nudges in late 2018 from some of my people, including some people in the financial world. And I've heard about the reset. I heard about the reset way before anyone who was even talking about Klaus Schwab. I hadn't even heard of Klaus Schwab at that point. So then I started telling people on the internet that there was a massive coming event, and there's going to be a global financial reset, and you better start getting your houses in order. And I was like, yeah, nice one. Oh yeah, right. We see what you've done there. You've got bored of that stuff. Now you're saying, and I was saying, listen, you can take my advice if you want. So I started making certain moves, like with my own investments and my own finances. And I said, listen, if anyone wants to know, this is what I've been doing. It's not advice. If you want to do this, that's what I'm doing. It's up to you. And then obviously what happened in 2020 happened. Now, I've been spending a lot of time in Southeast Asia since 2010. I've been emceeing at the Full Moon Party in Thailand every year for New Year's Eve. I've been at 6 weeks a year, maybe 8 weeks a year. I've been over there. I've got a very in-depth knowledge about what goes on with China and the relationship between the other countries there and all types of weird stuff. And what China have been up to, basically. I've been researching it quite heavily. Now, I had been in Thailand from, let me get this right, November 2019. Right up until the January 15th, 2020. And as we came back through into the country, it was, I saw a thing in Thailand and they were going on about it in the news. And I said to my now wife, I said, this is the event. This is the event that will start the first domino falling.
Well, I could smell, as soon as it started Wuhan and the bodies falling and the way they were just portraying it, I was like, something's up with this, and not buying it. And it's a card they're playing, basically.
Yeah. Now, we flew back on the January the 15th, and my wife got really ill when we came back, and she actually ended up in hospital. She collapsed at work. And we're in the hospital, and they're taking blood tests and everything like that. And they're saying, have you been to Wuhan? Have you been to Wuhan?
Right.
And I was like, well, no, we haven't been to Wuhan, but I'll tell you where I've been. I've been to Thailand and Laos, which is filled with tens of thousands of Chinese tourists. I've been rubbing shoulders with, and they weren't interested in that. I was saying, listen, I could have been rubbing next to people that have come straight from Wuhan. They didn't care. Have you been to Wuhan? No.
Right.
I saw the blood test results. She had influenza B, and that was fine. And then this happened. Now, at the time, I wasn't speaking on the internet about it because at the time, I had no idea whether there really was a Chinese bioweapon that was going to kill loads of people, because I've been researching all the dark stuff the CCP had been up to for 3 years, 4 years maybe. So I went really quiet, and then all of a sudden people started coming to me that had never had an inkling that they'd been following my stuff before, and they started saying, "Lance, what is going on? We need to know." And I was like, give me a couple more days. Give me a couple more days. And when I finally made the post, it was something along the lines of, "Guys, whatever is going on, I guarantee the financial and social repercussions will be 100 times more deadly than the supposed V word." I'm really so touchy about saying certain words. We're on a strike at the moment on my channel.
Right.
Medical misinformation.
Yeah, I'm on too.
Yeah, join the club. So yeah, I started basically exposing stuff, and I started making videos, and I made a series of videos called C Word 1984. And each video was about half an hour long, and I exposed one thing at a time. And then number 5, I made a video about Serco.
Oh, I was just looking in there a little bit last night.
Yeah, and then that's when everything changed. That video got about 10,000 views, and it started to go viral. And then someone asked me to speak about it, and the speech that I did go properly viral. It got fact checked by Reuters. All the big fact checkers, they wrote a whole article fact checking it. I got my Facebook deleted, and including 3 business pages. Some have had 5,000 likes. It was my Combat Sports MC page, another business, all deleted.
What were you saying about them?
Basically, I was warning everyone about the digital prison that was being installed, and I was telling people about the immunity passports and how Serco were running the prisons, also the AMPR cameras, the traffic lights. And I was just telling everyone, listen, this is a Crown Corporation company, and the digital prison is already here. It's already here. All they have to do is press the button. And these are the people that the actual enforcers behind track and trace. You know, the billions that went, how many, what was it? 36, it's probably 33 billion or something went to them, you know, the score. But yeah, so obviously many things I said in there were very shocking to people, and it was all true. And, you know, what transpired. But the fact is that the police were alerted to me, and it turned out that I was under surveillance, and they actually came to my house, my parents' house one night when I was broadcasting here. And I haven't lived at my parents' house for like, what, 17 years? They're in their mid-70s now, and it was 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and the police are there, and they basically said, "We're here to warn you, Lance, if he speaks in Truro tomorrow," this is November 2020, "we won't let him get away this time." And my mum said, "He's going to take that as a direct challenge. You better be ready." And so yeah, the next day I go to Truro, and there's drones and far too many police for just me. So I spent like the rest of 2020 and most of 2021 on bail with a £10,000 fine over my head for conspiring to incite others to break the C word regulations.
Oh my God.
Which, to be fair, is exactly what I was doing.
Well, guidelines, Matt Hancock called them.
Yeah, there were guidelines. Well, here's the funny thing. When I actually went to court and I pleaded not guilty. I crowdfunded enough money to get a really good barrister. And all the barrister did was read the C Word Act, and it basically it protects your rights basically to protest against the Soviet Union, which is what I've coined. You know, the force that was trying to install all that shit on us. So yeah, that was a groundbreaking case. It got thrown out of court. We're the first people in the UK to go all the way into court under a C word regulation and actually win. Other people had it thrown out or they paid the fine. We won. So yeah, and then I started the live show, and we started with a webcam, and it's slowly grown into everyone's favorite Friday night hangout. If you don't want to watch the clown show, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Were you on a show with Pete Stone at some point talking about this? No.
Is that Sovereign Pete?
No, it's God. What's the name of Pete Stone's one? So, you know, it's in that ballpark though.
I've had a guy on the show called Pete the Sovereign. I didn't know what his surname was though.
No, there is a guy like that as well. I think you can confuse them, but just something tells me. I remember you talking about, there was somebody talking about this case with them, and you weren't sure what to do, and you said you'd already bought a lawyer, but he was talking about doing kind of a different way, a different method.
Well, that's the thing, right? A lot of people gave me a lot of stick. They said, "Oh, you should be doing the whole common law thing. Why are you going into their system using their barristers?"
That's
And everyone was saying, you're going to get stitched up. That barrister's going to stitch you up. Well, the exact opposite happened. What happened was the barrister wrote a document, which it was like this thick. It cost us $3,000 that we crowdfunded, but that document basically is a blueprint that we put up on the website for free. And I said, anyone gets in trouble for talking at protests, you just produce this document. You just scrub my name out and put your name in. It will work. I guarantee it.
Right.
And other people have used it successfully. So yeah, that was a big win for us. And I guess that got a lot of eyes on what I was doing, which, has really sort of driven the live Friday night show, which is now morphed into having DJs, guests. We're trying to, do you remember TGI Friday?
Yeah,
with Chris Evans.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I think we're roughly the same age, Bill. So we grew up with those sort of Friday night shows that were like quite long, maybe 2 hours, and you have like a host who would come in, sit there, crack jokes, talk about things, maybe some in jokes that be running the show. You'd have guests, you'd have a band, you'd have some music, you'd have some skits, some comedy. That's sort of like the blueprint I've tried to do with the Friday night show now.
Well, that's what I'll do as well. I've got a thing called Shooting the Shit, and sometimes I do my poetry, sometimes whatever, play music, whatever, that kind of thing. An entertainment show. But again, yeah, I never actually mixed in with the guests. I always have interviews separate and then do that. But it's a good idea to mix it all in with the guests, yeah.
Well, I thought the thing was, like, throughout lockdown, a lot of people were really, really isolated.
And that's why I started the Shooting the Shit show as well, to give a place for people to kind of gather, and we're not alone. There's like one person in every tune.
Yeah, but you know what? I think there's a lot more people that speak, that think like us, but are scared to speak out. So it's like, if you can provide that space, whether it's doing a video once a month, or we made an effort to try and have a regular Friday night show, so these people could have a space to meet and chat. And I'm really pleased with what we've achieved, because now we've got like a really strong following and a group of people that have actually now met in person, and many of them have formed friendships and they've carried on meeting in person. We have relationships now that have formed out of the live chat on my show, where people are now together.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like, I attended that Comcast event. It was a great experience just to be in a place where everyone's kind of conscious, and you're going to meet people there you can have a serious conversation with, rather than talk about the kind of mainstream narrative. So speaking of that kind of meeting, you've held one of these events at least before.
Yeah. So basically, we were under a lot of pressure to put on a meetup, because everyone wanted a physical meetup that have been chatting to each other for 2 years in our live chat. And we finally got round to it last year, and we managed to get the weekend of September the 11th. We actually had the 9th to the 11th,
right,
which was quite, that was great in itself. We managed to get the 9/11 weekend. We booked this amazing woodland campsite in Dorset called Southover Woods. We wanted somewhere that was a bit special, rather than just having it at a farm or something like that. We managed to find this amazing site, and on this weekend as well, we thought, let's take all the negative shit from that weekend, throw it out the window, and let's have something really positive on that weekend.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, on the opening day of the event, the Queen allegedly died.
All right.
Allegedly died. Now, I don't want to offend any of your viewers. There might be royalists, but there were a number of the performers at that event. They were obviously quite anti-monarchy. Right. And the funny thing was, our security team, blessed them, a lot of them were or some of them were serving territorial army.
Aye.
And we had Terror Slim, one of our rappers, on stage. The Queen is dead, make some noise. And hey, we were all loving it, but the security team for a moment were a little bit, whoa, they needed to be consoled. But yeah, so we had in total like 400 people at this amazing woodland campsite. So last time we had a big sound system stage based around DJs and MCs, a lot of bass driven electronic music. We had a thriving marketplace, a proper little micro economy. Loads of experiences as well, foragers. We had martial arts at the last one, and it was a raging success. So we're doing another one, and you were on the lineup, Billy.
That's cool. Here's one picture here. I'm a little bit worried. It says family friendly, and then you've invited me. You have seen my act, right?
We also spelt friendly wrong if you look at that.
Oh, yeah.
I think you've got the old one. I have corrected that by now.
Right.
Yeah, it is totally family friendly, right? So last time we had people from like 3 years old up to like 78 years old attending from every strata of the UK, and I think this time we might even have, I think a couple of people are coming from Holland as well. But basically, it's totally family friendly. There's loads of experiences at the event. So we've got like Forage for Knowledge, which is a foraging expert. Project Abundance, they're doing like workshops in mycology and mushroom growing, and they sell seeds and stuff like that. Art Salad, which is art therapy. Digital nomad training, which is part of a learning experience we're going to be offering going forward. It's how you can actually make passive income out of the digital world by not really doing much at all and using these tools that might be used against us. It's really interesting stuff. We've got off-grid expert JD with his caravan telling us about his off-grid experience in a nice little enclosure. Apart from that, comedy, poetry, music, and this is all based around bands. It's actually a semi-acoustic event. So although we do have some rappers, this is all based around acoustics. So we've got like this amazing sitar player called Omni Vibes. We've got a sick accordionist called Sophie Abison. Band Audio Flux, Lucas Lyon, who's one of the sort of the leading anti-Covia artists in the UK at the moment. He's there performing acoustically with guitar backing. We've got Mark Devlin talking, and I can confirm allegedly Dave is at this event as well. Right. Dave Murphy. He's going to be speaking on the Friday and the Sunday, 2 separate workshops. And we are currently running a poll on Telegram at the moment for people to choose what those workshops are. And there's a choice of like 10. Right. So that's wicked. And that's all included in the ticket price. We also have an extra experience there, which is run by the Woodland School, which are professional instructors which teach people from at the age of 5 upwards, right up to adult, all types of woodland survival activities, tree identification, shelter building, how to light a fire. Yeah, so as well as sorry,
is 4 days going to be enough?
Well, last time we did it for 2 days and everyone complained we needed more time. We need more time. So this time we were extending it. It goes from like Thursday afternoon on the bank holiday weekend till Monday morning. The full ticket price for adults is £133, and that includes like all of the workshops and experiences. Obviously, all of the entertainment. We have loads of stalls there selling all different types of artisan craft materials and stuff like that. It's really quite special.
That's cool. 33 there popping out.
Yes, I'm going to address that. Some people get a little bit alarmed that we use certain symbology and certain numbers.
Well, they've hijacked a lot of things, haven't they?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. And we're very conscious of that because we do, here at Rise Above, anyone that watches the show, we do study the occult because we believe it's important to know the tools of those that are working against us. Yeah. And from our own research.
All the symbolism from Carl Jung, you know, he talks about the symbols in the head. And if they've got their logos plastered everywhere, that's talking to our subconscious in ways we don't realise.
Absolutely. But what we learned was the symbols themselves, or these special master numbers in themselves, they are actually quite neutral, and it's all about the intent put into it.
Yeah.
So the reason I chose the rising sun for Rise Above is obviously because it goes with a brand new day, and it obviously works with rising, and it's a very powerful symbol that's been used since there have been symbols. It doesn't belong to the Japanese Empire or the Romans or the Freemasons. It doesn't belong to anyone.
Yeah.
Newsflash. It's one of the oldest symbols ever. Yeah. I've chose that very consciously. I mean, the 33 thing is a long story. Anyone that watches the show knows that it's like a number that follows us around. And since we did it show de-occulting what 33 is all around about, right. Everyone that watches the show has started having the phenomena that 33 is everywhere. They message me every day.
Oh, I'll get that as well. It's incredible. Me and my girlfriend for 2 years, it's like 33. Fuck off with the 33.
Yeah. So you're part of the 33 club as well. Every time I look at my watch 33, I look at the TV 33.
I look at my clock. I think my subconscious mind must know when it's 33.
Yeah, we might be manifesting it too.
7:33 to the next day 33. It's like I keep looking at that every time it's 33. So it's like must see it, and then I go. It's like it's fucking 33 again. Fuck off that. But it appears everywhere, you know, all the time.
I tell you what, the other reason I use it, apart from I believe that now the 33 is working for us here at Rise Above because we've taken it under our umbrella and it now works for us. The other reason that we use it is digital occult camouflage. Now, what I mean by that is we sort of think that the Al Gore, the AI, the algorithm, Al Gore and his rhythm, the algorithm, right? We believe that it has certain signifiers and things that it recognizes. Now, if those working against us put certain markers in their work, like, you know,
all the time pops
yeah,
up.
it's definitely some sort of marker, Billy, right? When you know you've got one of those pivotal stories which is really pushing the agenda and it looks super iffy, you know there's going to be a 33 in there, right?
Definitely.
Well, guess what? If you cover yourself in 33s,
Right.
most of the time the algorithm or Al Gore doesn't even think you're part of the problem. It thinks you're just part of see what I'm saying? Digital occult camouflage.
Right.
Now, I'm obviously saying that we're sat on a strike at the moment, but that's because Dave, allegedly Dave said something about the Soviet Union's remedies not being effective, and the Wuhan hoax organization weren't very pleased about it, so we got a strike.
Aye, well, again, I lost 10,500 videos for fucking Vimeo.
That hurts, mate.
Well, shut down my whole website, and I've had to upload every video one by one and start again. I'm still nowhere near Ken. There's 2,000 blog posts. I've got about 100 back up. It knocks you back. It's severe kicking the balls.
Yeah.
And they own these platforms, and I tried to reason and argue with them, but of course they don't take logic and fucking justice into the equation. But
no, that doesn't come into it. It doesn't come into it at all when you try to appeal any of this stuff.
You just wish, you know, Facebook and all these. As soon as they start censoring, you just wish people were conscious enough to say, "Everyone, let's get off here, then go somewhere else." You know, we have the choice. We're empowering it. Even, you know, kowtowing and not saying these things on YouTube. Like I not care. Like I'm on YouTube now, so this could be my final video. But
well, that's why I've been careful about what I say. I mean, the way that we've been getting around it so far, and it's actually become quite a fun and an integral part of the show, is the sort of the slanguage which we've had to develop for almost everything.
Aye.
You know, we've nicked it from our affiliates as well, like Britney Spears, going to the Britney Spears concert, taking the arm spear. You know, Al Gore can't process Britney Spears. You know, if you say, you know, Jibby, Abby, and those, that's a bit close.
Aye.
So we've developed what we call the Ralphabet, you know, R-A, rise above the Ralphabet. And it's like a whole, well, we did the whole A to Z in 2021. And like last year, we said we've already got enough new words to do a whole nother A to Z. We just never got round to it because obviously it's just evolving. But the problem is sometimes when people watch the show for the first time, they're sort of like, what are they talking about? But I think maybe that's part of like the intrigue that creates a bit of interest as well. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, the more you listen, then they kind of develop it. So it's like a secret club, isn't it? You're free bang going on there.
Because other people have said, why do you still want to be on YouTube? Because here's the thing. This is what I think. I mean, we do stream to other platforms. No one watches.
No.
The thing is, whether we like it or not, right now, YouTube is the only platform where people can walk into their house, pick up their phone, press one button, and it comes on their smart TV.
Aye.
Or it's already built into their TV. To stream any of those other video platforms from your phone or your tablet to their TV takes like 10 or 15 different clicks. Whereas YouTube is just one click and it works every time. And that's why if you do take yourself off YouTube and you go to Odyssey or to BitChute, you're just going to lose like 60-70% of your viewership on a live.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to get people to go to my website. It's practically impossible. And the problem is, you know, any time YouTube can strike, you know, when they feel like it, essentially. And, you know, so the power of your business or whatever is in somebody else's hands.
Yeah. The other thing is that YouTube is the only one that really has a decent live chat where people come sometimes just to be in the live chat and they're really actually just listening to, well, we have that anyway. Sometimes we watch the live chat and there's whole conversations going on in the live chat that've got nothing to do with what's going on screen. They just come to hang out with like-minded people and to be able to speak freely in a chat, like not on Facebook, without worrying about someone, you know, reporting you or something.
Aye. Well, I've got a live chat on the site as well because of that. That's an important element. It's not just people listening to you. You want the community to interact and get to know each other. Because if essentially the more of us get together, that's what we need to do. Well, we shouldn't remove these people, etc. But we need to create new ways of being and new groups. And
absolutely.
And, you know, going forward positively.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do here at Rise Above for the last couple of years, especially. We've been talking a lot about taking things off the screen. you know, and we started with the event last year and the events going forward, but we've got massive plans. Tomorrow night, if I wasn't on the strike, I was actually going to be revealing my big new 10-year plan. And it's called, you know, like Agenda 2030. Well, I thought, fuck that. I'll take that and I'll make it better. So we called it Raw Agenda 2033. And I'm deadly serious. It's a 10-year plan about what we want to create and build over the next 10 years from 2023 up to 2033 to take this off the screen. Because here's the thing, Billy, right? Loads of people that think like us, they spend a lot of time going, yeah, we got to tear it all down. We got to tear down the system. Hey, that's all well and good, right? But if no one is working in the background to make sure that there's something standing when the dust is cleared and in the ashes, when you've torn the system down, everyone's going to be fucked.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. There's a guy called Martin Kenny. He's got Pineal Foundation. He set up something similar in Portugal, you know, where people are actually living off the land and living as close as they can off the grid. These kind of things.
Yeah. And that's what we plan to do, because I don't want to talk about it too much, because obviously I'm going to unveil it all next week. But going forward, is what Rise Above wants to do is to be the glue that connects all those people together. Because what we've got in our platform is we have many different people from different aspects of people that think like us watching from all over the world. And sometimes, and they're all disconnected. So what we want to do is build that infrastructure over the next 10 years. So when you want to invest, purchase, meet, collaborate with like-minded people in this new economy, then it will be there. Someone will already have created it. Because here's another thing I said in 2020. Everyone said, what should we do? I said, it's black market time. In the Soviet Union, for people to carry on living with some of the qualities that they had before, or the qualities that were seen as Western decadence, there was a thriving black market.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the Soviet Union, when people said, show me your papers, well, guess what? If you wanted to move around, comrade, you had to get fake papers. So it's like people have to adapt. It's all well and good not going out to events if they're going to say, have you had a PCR test? But, well, what about if someone is building the events where they will never ask for that and they will never comply with any of that by standard? It's like that needs to happen, because, you know, if we tear everything down, then there won't be anything, and that will be a problem, a big problem, and that's what a lot of people, I think, in the sort of like activist movement fail to realize a lot of times.
Well, to me, it's all about people changing themselves. And if you're just going, you know, and sometimes there's a good cause to shout at politicians and whatever, but just to go rah, rah, rah in the street when, you know, people could be studying sovereignty and, you know, well, communities have been lost, you know. I think communities, the strength of them is completely been decimated, you know. Yeah. So it really starts with communities getting to talk to each other and town halls and stuff like that becoming places where people can discuss this stuff and like start thinking about growing vegetables and stuff like that, because these insects are now on our dinner plate and they've got graphene oxide in them according to Google's patent, you know. So they want that shit in us, whatever. And I didn't
wait a minute, hold on. Did you just say that Google have got a patent to put graphene oxide in insects?
Basically, there's a
come on. This gets better every day. as if insects didn't have enough parasites in them. Let's whack some graphene oxide in there.
Exactly, that's the plan. That's what's going on. It's a patent number, and when I try and view it, it flashes up and then disappears and leaves me with a blank screen. But there's a Google patent number. I can give it to you. Hold on.
I remember when I shared that patent in 2020 for the for Bill Gates's biometric crypto harvesting device, and it was like it was a patch where basically it you know, like the movements of your wrist can power the battery on a watch.
All right.
But it's basically like your reactions to watching TV could farm cryptocurrency with this device.
Right.
And the let me get this right. The patent was like 2020-666. That was actually the patent number. And you know, I showed the blueprints of that to people. No, you must be joking. Like, no, that's actually real.
Oh,
That's actually real.
The technology they have must be fucking off the scale compared to what we know. Here's another question I have. Deep underground military bases, what the fuck's going on there? You know, we've got a shortage of vegetables on our shelves and all that, and there's hundreds of trucks heading way down under there. I think they're preparing for something. And
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Do you remember in 2020 and 2019, there was the phenomenon of the sort of like right-wing trumpet truthers and the Q people saying that all these explosions that were going on, and what it was is they were clearing out deep underground military bases of the kids. You remember?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to suggest that much more likely is that they were creating more underground bases with explosives, because that's how you do it. You blast, basically. You do some drilling.
The whole driller thing. You see that thing that basically it melts the rock and cools it with water. So as it's doing it, it's creating a tunnel just by boring through the rock. Pretty fast. Mental shit.
Yeah, well, you know, that's not a conspiracy theory. Everyone can go and see that, like, how many of those structures there are. I think they do. I think they're hiding from something.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, I don't know. Here's something interesting. I'll throw this one at you. I've watched this video channel. There's a couple of them. They talk about clues for like Boris Johnson and all these people put out, you know, in the predictive program. And they talk about waves quite a lot, or a tsunami, or there's a meteorite. They're going to do all these things. So there's this YouTube channel, We Seek, We Find. And it's got lots of these wee clips from movies or whatever. And they all point to this date, May the 19th, 2023. That exact day where the comet's going to come. And basically things are going to go tits up. And when you watch all these things put together, it's quite mad. And like even Woody Harrelson the other day, there was like this speech he done at the SNL, the way he done that, and it was like Jesus putting the cross out. I don't know, I've talked to another guy called Dr. Scott McQuaid who talks about Nibiru, and basically it comes back every so often, and he says Nibiru is Jesus, it's the Messiah when it returns, and that's, if you want out of this hell, he says the physical realm is hell, and so it's like, get me out of here and return to the Father. And like,
what, you got to be beamed up by Nibiru to be saved? Well,
you basically want to, you realize this is hell, you realize the truth shall set you free, and when instead of running in terror, all these movies, there's a comet coming, everyone's scared and running away, chaos and everything, but if you're calm in the center of that and saying, you know, everyone's going to die anyway, but if you realize that's Jesus coming back. Anyway, Inner Circle is the YouTube channel. Check out some of his work.
Inner Circle, I will check that. That sounds very interesting.
He was a Christian. He went back to the original Sanskrit of the Bible and kind of translated it. So he's not saying this is my interpretation. This is what it says to a lot of stuff. And that is quite fascinating. So there's lots of things. He takes biblical text and makes sense of it. You know, like there's other people who do that as well. And astrotheology is involved. It's just interesting to contemplate these things. Because again, there's resets. What do you think about resets, mud floods, and, you know, the orphan children and all this kind of stuff?
Do you know what's really interesting about this, Billy? The whole mud flood reset 1850s narrative, right? Now, as I said, I have been and always was an avid conspiracy theorist since at least 2005. In 2018, I went to Asia. Ahead of my fiance at the time. I went 2 or 3 weeks ahead of her to do some gigs out there, and I left her here at home basically with some smoke and YouTube. Now, previous to leaving, I did not know. I had no idea about a reset or a mud flood as presented. When by the time she met me in northern Thailand, she's like, right, so the mud flood in 1850 and the worldwide reset. I was like, what? This was before I'd been told about the No. This was just after I'd been told about the coming global financial reset by my financial advisor. Right, literally a couple of weeks after. She's like, have you seen all this stuff? And then she shows me this huge glut of information, like all the John Levi videos, all the photos of San Francisco, all the stuff about the fires, all of these very early photos, which are totally anomalous, where there's no people there. And there are these huge ornate Romanesque buildings. And then there's like someone with a cart and a shovel. It's like, really? But what I'm getting at, Billy, is, in my opinion, as far as my perception goes, there is no way that all of that information was all on the internet before I left. Because if it was, I would have come across it. I mean, when did you find out about this? this phenomenon.
Yeah, that's the things that happen, isn't it? It's just all of a sudden it's just a new topic in town, but it is a fairly recent one, that one.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly pinpoint it to like November 2018. Because by the time she come out 2 weeks later, I'd left the country. I hadn't been watching videos. I was busy. She showed me like scores and scores and scores of these videos, and I was like, well, have these all been produced in the last 3 weeks? And it turned out most of them had.
All right. Well,
so it seems to me like it seems very crazy and very coincidental that right after I've had a tip off from my financial guy that the world economy is literally now, you know, the thing that we've been hearing about for decades. Oh, it's past the brink. It's on borrowed time. Fiat monetary system is designed to fail. You know these themes, right, Billy? Well, I had that nod in what, October 2018, and then by the 1st of December 2018, all of this information about the 1850s mud flood, the global reset, the anomaly in history, then the stuff about the orphan trains, the orphanages, the world fairs, that all came out within the space of a month. And I was like, right, there's going to be a global reset. This information's been released. And I do think some of that Tartarian stuff is obviously very romanticized. A lot of it is embellished. I think there is definitely something there, but I think the idea that a lot of people have got is a little bit comic book.
It's like a one big empire and everyone lived happy ever after kind of thing.
Yeah, and it covered the whole, almost all of Europe, and actually all of that was called Tartaria right up until 1850. I think people have got some information and run away with it a little bit in the way it's being presented. There is definitely something there.
There's giants as well in the free energy. If you look at all these buildings, the structures, the doors are incredible in the technology to make them, and fucking, you know.
Billy, I'm utterly convinced that what we would call giants, people above that 7 or 8 foot abnormality, growth hormone deficiency height, you know, them really tall people that are very lanky, that have got that condition, people a couple of feet above that could only be considered as giants. And in my opinion, those people probably walked the earth at least as recent as a couple of 100 years ago. I think that is utterly plausible, and I think there's probably a lot of evidence to support that as well.
Yep, history is his story, isn't it? There's a lot there. Again,
whose story? That's better. Who's he? Yeah.
Well, you just walk around now and you look at buildings that you looked at a million times. You go, "Fuck me, how did I see that before?" Again, it's just.
I think the big anomaly that was really brought to the table for me by that stuff is when they were looking at the it gets right, like 18th century buildings, and they're like showing how ornate and crazily ornate and beautiful these buildings are. But we were all taught that those people shit out the window, and they didn't have any plumbing and that.
Gardyloo.
Yeah, you know, and I remember, and it's funny enough to go back to what I said right at the start. One of the first things my parents got pulled in to school for was when we learnt about the Victorians, right? And I remember in this history class very vividly, we had to draw a Victorian scene, and now they told us that in Victorian London there were so many horses that if there weren't full-time people sweeping up the shit, that by lunchtime the whole of London would be knee deep in shit. Right. Now, me being me, they were like, here's some felt pens, draw a Victorian scene. I was like, right, I'm drawing the day when the shit sweepers went on strike. So I drew this, like, it was in like a 2-point perspective, but it had a perspective of like the carts going down and everyone wading in shit, people throwing their shit out the windows, and it was all coloured in and everything. I put all the brickwork in, I presented it, and they looked like, whoa. Had all the flies, you know, the little comic flies and everything, like a pile of poo in the Beano. Remember that, with the flies and the little squirty lines? I did it all like that because I used to read all the Beano, collect all the comics. I was really into like all the graphic art and everything, and drew that. And they were like, right, I think we need to get the parents in here. But yeah, but that's what you're always told. They were so primitive that, you know, people literally like just chucked their crap out the window. They didn't have proper running water. You know, there was no sewage, there was no heating. But they built this cathedral over here like this. And in fact, they built that cathedral 150 years before these peasants were supposed to be here.
Exactly.
I was like, really? Wow. You're having me on. But yeah, I think that was what was really brought to the table by all that, because, you know, I learned that stuff at school and I thought, that's bollocks, man. I just thought that's bullshit. No way. Fuck off.
Yeah, I just never took in school shit that much. Maybe in the back of my mind I knew it was bullshit. Couldn't wait to get out of there. I had no, ideas of going to university or anything like that. Just as I get out of this education stuff as quickly as possible. It's boring the arse of me.
I quite enjoyed it. It was like having a captive audience, mate. I made the most of it, but the teachers weren't impressed. But
yeah, I mean, I was like that as well. I was a class clown, like football and having a laugh, the social aspect, but no the fucking listening to some cunt drone on. I actually took drama at school, done alright at it, and then when I heard David Icke talk about Bill Hicks, I was like, oh, I've done drama. I used to make people laugh like that. I'll give comedy a bash. So
yeah, I did theatre studies. I did a theatre studies A level because I was at an all boys school. It was the only lesson where you got to have like 3 periods a week down at the girls' school, which was like about half a mile down the road. They had the girls' school down there. I was like, oh right, theatre studies. That's a mixed. Yes, we'll have that one. But yeah, I always like to tread the boards. I was always a performer. But I guess I went in rather than I always wanted to go into TV. I'm not going to lie. When I was at like high school and before going to uni at the age of like 18, I really wanted to be a TV presenter and go into the media. I did media studies at East London Uni, which let's be fair, that's a Mickey Mouse degree. That is a proper Mickey Mouse degree. But I wanted to go into the media, so I did the media studies. Now here's another interesting thing. Not only did I later find out about the type of people that work in the media and about what they get up to at university, in East London, way before all the crazy identity politics started, I had a first-hand experience of actually, they tried to indoctrinate me with that stuff at an academic level. So all about identity and the other and this stuff. And I was actually sort of rubbing shoulders with people that were on the gender studies courses. Okay. And, I was there, but this would have been, let me get this right. It's been like 2002, 2003. And I had someone at university try and convince me that I wasn't completely heterosexual. I was like, what? They said, well, gender's a sliding scale. I was like, oh, well, cool. Because you know what, on sliding scales, you see, you have 2 polarities. I'm the polarity that's totally straight. He's like, no, you can't be. You've got to be. You would always be slightly homosexual. I was like, no, I can't guarantee you're not. And I was like, what? I was like, what is going on here? And I was seeing these perfectly reasonable people being indoctrinated with this stuff. And I clocked very early that because I was in the cultural studies sort of like umbrella, although I was going to the studio and learning how to do radio shows and stuff, they were indoctrinating me with Lucy and Freud. Right. Like every boy really secretly wants to bone his mum. You know that? Have you ever heard what Lucy and Freud actually think? Crazy. And that's the guy that created psychoanalysis, which all the psychiatrists, I was like, what? Exactly. Oedipus theory. Every little girl hates her dad because she's jealous that she hasn't got a dick like him. I was like, they were teaching me this stuff. I was like 20 years old. I'm like, I've come from down on the South Coast, very sort of like middle class white area, and I've gone to East London Uni, where it's like 30% white people, 30% black people, 30% Asians, fully cosmopolitan. And I was like, right, I'm in London. I've gone to the Big Apple of the UK. I'm really diverse people. I'm having all these new experiences. And then they try to teach me that. And I'm like, I'm paying for this. In fact, I'm getting in debt for this. And I'm going to work because my student loan didn't cover, I think my parents helped me out with the tuition fees, which was £1,000 a semester. But my student loan, I had to cover my rent. I had to work 3 or 4 days a week. And then when I realized I'm slogging my guts out to be indoctrinated with like total bullshit. And then obviously years later, when I started to look into it more heavily and really learn about cultural Marxism and like the progenitors of that stuff in the Frankfurt School, I was like, whoa, it's like they could have got me. Because everyone around me was like, oh, yes, this is the new progressive way of thinking. We're going to be like the forerunners in this.
They've seen girls that go into university and then about a year later, their parents are horrified with what's happened to them. And these TikTok algorithms as well, the more trans bish you watch, the more they fucking feed into it, and it's mega, mega dangerous. It's insane.
What I would say is the worst thing ever is the short form content that's now been shoved down young people's throat, like with the reels and the YouTube shorts. I saw this advert on TV, Billy, and it was for one of these like new SIM cards, these data SIM cards that's aimed specifically at teenagers. So when you've run out of credit, you can still use the internet. You get free data, but only for guess what? reels and shorts that are less than 30 seconds. You
Oh,
can watch those infinitely
oh,
for no charge
God's
with
sake.
no credit.
Unreal.
And you can imagine, like, what people's brains are already fully destroyed. Like, we are so lucky that we've managed to escape the targeted brain destruction that's been forced to people. But now, like, constantly watching 30-second clips that will actually loop if you don't go to the next one, and you're just passively going like this, and all the noises coming from it are like super repetitive and annoying. And there's no content there. There's nothing there. That's low grade moon food. That's not good for anyone.
Well, shite in, shite out, basically, isn't it?
Absolutely, you are what you consume, and that's not just in your mouth.
Yeah, people don't realise that. What you hear, and even in your circle of friends, depends who you get involved with. It can lead you down a bad path, just wrong choice one night, and before you know it, you're hooked in heroin or something.
Absolutely, choices matter.
Yep, and consequences as well. Consequences of doing nothing. I don't think people realise. Again, I'm amazed when there's a group of people and you're just amazed at how asleep they are, and you just go, God, I wish I could get through to you what's actually going on right now, because you need a rocket up your ass to fucking.
They're like unactivated meat suits. It's almost like a sort of harrowing lack of enthusiasm for anything. A guy that I've been working with recently called Inspector Veg, who is a rapper like me, and he's a health activist and all about clean spiritual living. He was talking to me the other day about the education system. What we actually went to do, we went to visit this off-grid school where they're educating all the kids that have been pulled out of school by all the parents that think like us. They're doing fantastic work. It's called Hope Sussex. Okay. They have a farm. They're growing stuff there. They've got different classrooms. It's fantastic.
Yeah, right? That's exactly what people need to be doing.
Yeah, well, we made a video about it. He went there to teach the kids about acid and alkaline foods, and we were having this conversation. And he and with Sadie, the one of the people that run it, and he's saying basically the education system at the moment, however it's doing it, what it's producing is kids at the end which have a complete, total lack of general enthusiasm for anything. They come out at the end, and if they haven't picked up a sport like football or rugby, which that's still fine. Right. They've basically come out with no interests.
Yeah.
Now that's so weird for like people of our generation, the way that we think to even consider that someone in those years of their life would not be well interested in one thing.
I mean, what school does, it kills the joy of learning, because you do your learning at school and you come home and you're tired for the bullshit, so you just do that, because like work, people get tired of work, and it's hard to do stuff after it if you don't have the will and desire. But I worked in Turkey in different schools, 9 different schools I taught in, and I taught kindergarten to adults, but a senior school system up to 16, 17. And every year in the class you taught, the students got more and more lower in their seats because they were just bored at their skull by the time. Like, this guy we love like being a mechanic or something, What's he doing in the square box? It just doesn't make sense. That's not the ideal place to learn. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's all obviously a big memory test and indoctrination, nothing. And they want to get the kids as young as possible to get them away from the parents, the whole feminism thing and all that kind of shit, Again, if you have a go at feminism, people think you're having a go at women. We need strong women, but not women that want to be like men, and family unit.
And men that want to act like women.
Oh God, didn't get me started on that.
Yeah, we'll probably get taken down for talking about that as well. So many taboo subjects, Billy, mate. Come on.
Well, I'm me, and that's how I see my world. And if you don't like it, well, you're allowed to disagree or hate me, I guess. But why can't we just express our opinions? The fact that you're not allowed to say that, I'm offended at this. Fuck off.
Hey, do you know what? things are getting better. I have gay and trans people that watch the show who contact me and say, listen, I just want not that they needed to say this to me, but I just want you to know, they say to me, that there is loads of us that totally reject that rainbow shit.
Hi.
We're totally embarrassed and we hate it. We want nothing to do with that crap. And some of them are like so anti it. They're put up and proper ripping the piss out of it. Right. And it's like, but to your average normie NPC, you criticise the rainbow, you're a multi-phobe.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like they
you know,
can't separate the psyop with the people that the psyop's trying to claim identity for, that they hate it too, and these people are getting offended on their behalf. It's so dumb.
It's ridiculous. People need to worry about themselves instead of concerned about everyone else's feelings. You know, even just this lack of emotional intelligence. You know, people get triggered and they're not capable of just understanding something a joke, or somebody might be rude and aggressive, but fucking that's them. You know, like Alf Garnett or Basil Fawlty, you can have a laugh at these people. They reveal themselves in their own, you know.
Mate, variety is the spice of life. If you came across everyone and everyone was just like a vanilla flavor.
Yeah, which is what they want, the robot.
Yeah, which is what, that's what every NPC is basically a vanilla flavor. Mate,
what do you think of this NPC thing? What do you think of that thing? NPCs are called.
Well, I mean, I probably heard about it at the same time as everyone else. I am quite like au fait with the 4chan culture and that. I followed that, so I sort of get those. I hear about those terms as soon as they come up. Oh, I can't lie, mate. Some people think it's very dehumanizing, but I think that's quite fitting.
Right. Well, I listened to a guy, I think it's called Legal Man on Twitter. He basically says that there's a study done that says that 70% of people or something don't have a voice.
An internal monologue. Right. Yeah, there's actually a condition that who was it? Allegedly Dave was talking about it. And they say it's about 5% of people that have it. And it's not just not having an internal dialogue. They actually have an inability to imagine.
Right, yeah.
So they have no mind's eye. So not only do they not have a little like voice going on, or a little mate, I've got loads of voices in my head, but they can't even have a picture in their head. So if you think about it, like that probably explains what's going on.
Well, this is why I think if the government know that they've got so many people like that, then they just need to keep telling the same bullshit, and those people will follow the bullshit because they can't do anything else.
They can't visualize, or they can't even conceptualize. They have no internal dialogue to even talk about in their head the concept that this might not be as presented. Because the crazy thing is, mate, that if a lot of these people that have fully fallen foul to the Soviet Union's propaganda, and not just that, whatever's put on the table at the moment, they're on board with it.
Yeah.
If you speak to those people and you try to remove everything that's happening now, and you put a different subject on the table, and you like, oh yeah, you just can't trust the government, can you? Oh no, of course not. That the fucking tax man, all these bureaucrats, the MPs, yeah, they're all fucking liars. Oh right, okay. But what about this? No, they wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
Is that called cognitive dissonance? I think it is. I think that's probably a good example of it. I think, but maybe they also don't have the ability to recognize patterns. There's no pattern recognition.
Well, critically think, there used to be the trivium in the education system, 3-step process to people learn how to think, but now A, B, C, D, what to think. So your choice is given to you, no need for your own critical mind to come up with anything, all done by design, of course.
Yeah.
But the more people go to the education system, the more indoctrinated they get, So these doctors, whatever, spreading their bullshit, they think they're right because they've had nothing but the system telling them what to spout back,
Why would the memo or the bulletin from the governing health body lie? You've spent your whole career. This is what we have to remember, when we take the piss out of these people or we hate on them, right? Yeah. We do have to remember that if you're not a super bright or super aware person and you've literally devoted your whole life to learning to be a GP or a doctor or an anaesthetist in a hospital or whatever, and you've seen that there's certain things in the system, they cut corners there or whatever, but you still believe in that system. You've devoted your whole life to it, your career, God knows how many hundreds of hours, the arguments with your wife, the fucked relationships you've sacrificed all of that to admit not only that you've been lied to, but to really comprehend the full scale of what happened and what is still happening. I don't think many people would be able to take that, because that's you're talking about a paradigm shattering happening. That's
Well, I've done a video on the shooting the shit there. Kate Shermani just saying, why did the nurses, you would trust with their health, inject people and essentially murder them with the midazolam murders? And I don't know, the kind of, again,
because that's what it said on the pathway paper, on the new bulletin, because that's how it happened. That's how Matt Dazalam did it. It was really as simple as altering the care pathway, the death pathway, basically. What was it? I think they upped the midazolam dose by 300%. Something like that.
Put enough in stock. And now he's wanting to make assisted dying, just for those who he deems needs to die, obviously.
Well, those 30,000 elderly people that he midazolammed in those care homes, that was sort of really, that was the meat of the potatoes for the people's pandemic, because anyone can share a story about an empty hospital, and you can counter that with a normie that goes, but my nan died. And then, but if you go, well, 30,000 people in care homes died. And it was Matt's fault because he allowed them to go in when they shouldn't. No, it's not that. It's much more simple than that. It came at the end of a needle. That was like the catalyst for the lie to carry on, really. And then obviously with the pro-COVID reaction tests and all the bullshit they were doing there, that sort of kept it going. I don't want you to get a strike, Billy. We should probably be quite careful.
That's all right. We're coming round a bit towards the end anyway, so it's been a pleasure having you strike me.
Nah, it's been great.
No, it's cool, man. I just take the rough with the smooth, so we'll see what happens in this one. But you're getting some comments on your red and black outfit as well. What does that mean? You're a communist?
Oh no, it's just it's a tracksuit I designed. I thought it looked cool.
It does. So you've got a website, Rise Above.
Yeah, basically, if you want to know about us, if you want to see the videos, you want to buy a ticket to the event or purchase some cool merchandise, it's riseabove.tv. That is the home of everything Rise Above. When we get taken down off all the platforms, that is how you get hold of us. It tells you the whole story there. We've got a whole photo gallery of all the family, about wearing the bits and pieces, everyone that's involved, and it tells you about us. So yeah, if you want to know more, riseabove.tv.
Yep, you can find you on YouTube on Friday night as well with the gang.
We'll be back next Friday. Tomorrow night, we're going to be broadcasting a special announcement on the second channel to apologise for not going live this week, and with a special deal on the tickets just this weekend to say sorry for not going live. So if you want a special discount on the event tickets, watch out tomorrow night on the Rise Above channel and check on the website.
That's great. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, Lance. You stay there. I'll have a wee chat with you after. Everyone else, thanks very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers and out. Bye-bye.